All right, everybody. First year, or the first show of the year. It is currently January 1st, 2018. Was running a bit late because we had to basically just talk a bit. But to get this show going properly and in a good way, we have decided to go with something that we haven't done for a while. So here we are.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to. This is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time. Anyhow, he had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, oh glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance. Under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
We want to thank you for joining us in our in Ed's first show of 2018. And remember, just a side note, all information that Ed provides, he is not liable for. He is not an attorney. He is not a lawyer. He does not have any degrees in any of the legalities or any of that stuff. He's not a Bar Association member. But the information he does give is applicable for the 48 states. The corporation states, Alaska and Hawaii, are part of the corporation, not part of the organic United States, the 48. So Ed, take it away.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight for the education, starting the first year of the year. We are the disclaimers. This is Monday night. We are going to be turning Monday night over to all the 30 people that decided to start doing Monday night. We are going to start going to Saturday coming up. And that's the other point we are going to be doing, is going to Saturday. So that way, all these people have changed their talk show to Monday night, coming after me, trying to go after, listeners and all this stuff. It's interesting, because I watch people doing that. I actually watched a lot of people last night all of a sudden do a New Year's show that nobody's done before in the past. These things are very interesting when you look at it, because the main thing is that I do bring the structure out of lawful and legal, and that is the point, to know your structure to be lawful, to be legal. Legal is immigration, not born Americans. You have to be born in this country, the 50 states, to be lawful. Otherwise, you are a legal citizen or national. And that's by law, because national is under Executive Order 2040. So is citizen, and that goes to the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. That's why I do bring these things forward, so this way you do read the circumstances, so you comprehend what's lawful and legal. Legal is British administrative rules of the British government, of the Vatican Church, of your Roman Catholic Church, your Christianity Church. When you go to court, it's the same thing, where a judge will tell you that I'm the same thing as the minister or the Pope or anybody, because your courts are run literally by the Vatican structure of Christianity Church. That goes back to even the 1200s of the structure directly with the Christian Crusades. They decided if you had a right to live or not, if you didn't go with their religion, that's where they did crucifixions, or that they suffered and made you pain and cut you up, or did whatever they did until you agreed, or they cut you up until you died. This is real, folks. That's why people, when I have conversations with people and people are going, you don't comprehend what the Bible says, you don't comprehend what religion is. I do comprehend what the Bible and religion says, because the bottom line comes down to is the First Amendment gives you the right to separate church and state. Our forefathers that came to this country from foreign countries that sat down and smoked hemp with the natives and shared their rum with the natives as they smoked the hemp, realized what they were doing of their country that they came from, and they realized what these men and women of this country were doing, because they didn't go by religion from a foreign country of dictatorship. They went by peace. And if you didn't harm another man or a woman, you were not liable. That's what the Constitution comes down to, plainly. That you are not liable if you have not injured somebody. You are not liable if you have not done personal or property damage to another living man or woman. We're not talking in a sense of being, because look at the terminology. What being is a person is an inanimate object. It doesn't exist. These are the points that most people don't do the research and know what the concept of what the real life is and what the truth is. And I'm going to get into that, because part of tonight's conversation is going to be, we have the Oregon State House and Senate opening up. Most states are going to be doing the same thing. They have their commercial industries opening up for administrative rules on the House and Senate bills that are going to bill you through property taxes or other taxes, even though they are lawfully, legally, voluntary. And that's what I'm going to get into the code here eventually. I'll be pulling that up here so that way you can see what the actual, I'm going to read the code to you. Because when they use the de facto dollar, it's a federal crime. When you pay your income and property taxes with the dollar bill, it's a federal crime. It really is, folks. This is not a joke. This is the one thing that people do not comprehend, that how the system works compared to what we're led to believe. And I do want you to look up, and we have this, I believe, on the website, new.Oregon Trackers, and we do have it, I think, if I don't have it on the other Facebook sites, United States for America Republic, Elected and Public Servants Oversight, Civil War, 1866, Lawful Bloodline Americans, Recall Kate Brown, and New Oregon Trackers. I'll get these things set up on the structure tonight. But Modern Money Mechanics is a good book, a good PDF file to read. USC Code 8, Obligation of Other Securities of the United States. Now remember, the United States is incorporated, and the United States incorporation is the federal government, and the federal government is the British Vatican government. Has nothing to do with the United States or we the people. That goes back to the Civil War, where we have an 1871 contract with the British government and the Vatican for elected and public servants. It's like you'll hear all these people that says, get rid of your Social Security card. You don't need your Social Security card. Well, yeah, you can do whatever you want on that one. Me, I own my Social Security because if they want to use it as identity theft, they gave it to me because Social Security was the structure of the Bankruptcy Act of 1933, March 9th, where they took away the gold and silver standards of the gold certificates. And the silver certificates we used to have until I think it was 37, 39 was the last year they were printed. See, we used to have what they call real money, and then they went to this Federal Reserve note. Now, the Federal Reserve is a debt note, so when they talk about the national debt going up, that's under 31 United States Code 3124. And that goes for exempt for taxations, because if you use a federal debt note to pay your debt off, called taxations, it's actually a federal crime. Revenue Code 1986, 26 USC. I bring these things up to people because I want you to do the research. I don't have a problem doing this research for people. But the thing is that I can tell you or suggest things because I don't tell anybody what to do, because I'm not going to take liability for you, because I'm not an attorney or liability insurance bond agent or judge. I won't do that because I don't want the liability of the psychological babble. And if you know what babble means, do your research what babble means of the Bible. I won't do it. I won't do that to do that to anybody, especially myself. Now, 12 USC 411. And this is part of the title of 31 USC 3121, and the other point of the United States Code 313124. This is using the federal debt note to pay off taxes, state and federal, and property taxes. It's actually a federal crime. And when the House and Senate is getting ready to open up, now I just served the House and Senate 1938. Foreign Registration Act dealing with terrorist Kate Brown. I'm the one who started the original recall on Kate Brown. The reason why it didn't go through, and some reasons why people were like, well, how come you didn't do it this way? Because let me explain how the law works. The law works that I'm going to be doing the other one when I put her indictment of treason coming up. That when that comes out here shortly, because I'm almost done with it, that you have to get it notarized, and treason takes 2 or more witnesses for treason charges to be filed. So when I do put that out, I'm looking at a lot of Oregon residents, and I hate using the devil's word. I'm looking for people that live in Oregon territory to sign and autograph that. Do not, unless you're an immigrant, you got to legally sign it. If you're a bloodline American, you autograph it. There is a separation of lawful and legal, and that's the point that people need to comprehend. The reality of the world compared to the fantasy of Disneyland and stuff that they're not educated and don't comprehend the circumstances of separation of lawful and legal. Or administrative rules. they do have a structure of administrative rules that people do not get. And that's the one thing, if people do comprehend what administrative rules are, we can stop a lot of the stuff that goes on that happens in the state. We can actually even stop the new taxes, the 37% structure that Kate Brown even put in place. She just raised your automobile fees up $100 a year plus the $80. The right to travel. She's going after the insurance companies now. You watch the TV ads, now they're charging you, oh, we'll give you a basic fee of insurance for $39 a month, but then we're going to charge you, 8 cents a mile when you travel. Minimum 250 miles. And that's actually already been in place for the last 10 years, but people don't know it unless you, pay the cheapest insurance on it and go by mileage. So in other words, they separated it and they're making you pay the privilege to travel on our right-of-ways. They're making it a privilege to live. In United Kingdom, the terrorist country of England that we've been battling for years, that people keep trying to tell me, hey, we're a British colony, and I keep telling them to get their ass and go back to England and get the hell out of here, because I even got the Queen's stamp of 1993 admitting we're not a British colony. And I even have the congressional records going back to 1800s admitting we're not a British colony, that I have publicized in papers and I've put out to the House and Senate. Nobody's disagreed with it. Nobody's disputed it. They're writing. They quoted it. And I've just brought it up to their attention. So this is the bottom line that we have to start realizing in this country, that we are 48 states. Alaska and Hawaii are commercial states by United States Inc. Puerto Rico is not even part of the United States technically. It's a country or territory that where the IRS has founded themselves over there, and the IRS is a British government agency. The IRS is not part of the United States, so we the people. That includes your state taxes is not part of the United States, or your property taxes are not part of the United States. When you pay your state, federal, and property taxes, it does go to the Queen of England and the Vatican. And this is the point that people's got to comprehend and step out of the movie and come to the production. There's a movie that I do recommend people watch. It's called Interstate 60. It'll explain your court system really well. I do recommend watching it twice with a pen and paper, so that way you do comprehend and you see some things that you might not see, and you comprehend what the reality of contracts are too in that movie. It does a really good job in it. And it is one of those things that when you start seeing these things, you sort of put these things together on the structure of how the elected and public servants work. Remember, we have elected and public servants. Cops are not part of the government. Cops do take an oath. They actually do take an oath, and I've been publicizing Kate Brown's oath that she actually has certified and registered with the Department of Justice. I have publicized that with the Department of Justice. I have satisfied that to the military as well recently, so that way they've got it, because I did file about her violating her oath of office. I will be filing what I believe is the treason charges coming up this week in violation with the British Auxiliary Register to the King and Queen of England, because that's what the bar is. So when they're getting ready to open up the Senate floor coming up here in 2 weeks, the point being is for people to sit there, and I would like to be up at the Capitol myself, because I would love to be speaking on some of this stuff and making sure that some of the bills I could have fun with, killing them on committees, because I can put evidence to kill them like I've done in the past. But I'm not traveling right now because they told me if I decided to travel right now without paying the state structure of a driver's license and that, I will be assassinated, literally. They have literally tried that more than once. I even have it in 2006, where they destroyed my family way back when, and the Department of Justice came out and clearly stated that the local government, the city of Newport, elected and public employees, the city of Toledo, elected and public employees, even Kate Brown was part of that, Gene Cowan, former state representative, Terry Johnson, and all these people were in that thing when they went after me. When I recalled the school board and proved the fraud of the Oregon Coast Fisheries of the ODF&W, Department of Justice put in writing that these men and women have a personal vendetta out for me because I won't sign my rights away to the democracy of the devil hell. I won't sign my rights over to believe in their fantasy of a Bible book like Disneyland. People get hard on me about the way I believe in the Bible and that stuff. You better believe it. I'm native. The Bible came from England. Your Quran came from a foreign country called Islam or whatever. You know, Mormons, they go by a book that came from, England. But, you know, all these religions go by a book that came from a foreign country that invaded, raped, murdered, terrorized the people. Even today, they're still doing it. The public servants on the street now today, the cops are pulling people over and shooting them in the street, beating them up, assaulting them. And you people accept it. That's a horrifying thing. That's a horrifying thing. I've seen people witness assaults that are done on people in the street, and they just accept it. They turn their back. I don't want to be involved. It's like my neighbor over right next door to me. When they kidnapped me and then they tried to beat me to death and all this shit, he goes, well, I own a business in town. I'm not speaking against that. Of course, his ex-wife is on the city council. It's all politics. Like I tell people, these people sleep in the same damn bed. They'll rape, rob, and pillage from you. They don't give a shit. It's all about the money. They have no morals. Sorry, if I believe in God, I would condemn them to hell and all the fantasies of that shit. But like people say, Ed, well, you don't believe in the Bible. You're going to go to hell. And I said, good. I'm going to be the best devil because I'm coming after you then. You don't want to sit there and stand up for your neighbor, and you want to turn evidence against your neighbor and lie about it. It's the same thing that people believe if Jesus Christ was true. Christians were the ones who turned Jesus over to the Romans who had him crucified. Do your real history, folks. Don't sit there and try to argue with me, because I've argued with hundreds of people over the last dozen years. I have proven it by historical instruments, even filed in the House and Senate and Congress. Do your history. Like Charleston Heston before he even died. That was the one movie he did with Moses. He sat there and told the producers in Moses, it says that in the Bible, or the book, it says, dealing with the structure, the root of all evil is money. They wanted him to say the love of money in a movie. He wouldn't do it. And then after he died, they changed the movie structure. And when you watch the movie now, it says the love of money. Doesn't say the root of all evil is money. And in your Bible, if you actually read the King James Bible, it says the root of all evil is money. So this is the saddest part. We're living in this reality that we have to look at the future here. Now, we're starting supposedly a new year under the whatever sun god, whatever you want to do of your religion, believe, or if you're into witchcraft, this is another part of the new structure of the seasons. There's another structure of the seasons in the Bible and different religions. And that's the beauty about the one thing about our Constitution. The Bible does not give you rights. It doesn't. Absolutely not. But the Constitution gives you rights to believe in your religion. Doesn't give you the right to preach to me. Doesn't give me the right to preach to you. Sometimes I do preach my religion because I'm native. But I want you to comprehend, and I do respect the men and women, that after some extensive arguments that I've had with some of these men and women over the last couple of years, that now we're finally on the same keel. Instead of arguing, to go, all right, you have the right to believe in what you want. I have the right to believe in what I want. I said, great. Now let's solve the problems with the kids. See, the Constitution says that we have the right to our own beliefs of religion. Religion is supposed to be separated from church and state. It shall not be incorporated. The minute you incorporate that, you murder your children. Ain't bullshit. That's what your forefathers left England. They wrote the Constitution that set it up so we weren't going back to hell. 1710 to 1778 until King George went back to England. If you had a King James Bible in your house back then, you were beheaded. There was no jury trial. You were just beheaded on the spot. See, there's no facts that people have got to start waking up to the real facts and stop living this fantasy of misguidance that we get. And once we stop living the misguidance that we are getting, you know, we start looking at the points here of how do we solve the problem. The Oregon State Senate session is coming up. I did put a bill into the Oregon State Senate session, so I'm asking anybody from the state of Oregon, maybe if you're another state and you hear this, please call them up and ask them to endorse and support the 25% lottery fund bill that I put in. So that way, 25% of lottery funds go back to native Oregonians first. Second, it goes to lawful Americans that are here over 10 years, or 15 years I think I put in. Originally it was 20, but people were going, that's a little long, so 15 years I had to give them on that one. So you can't just come to this state from another state to get it like you go up to Alaska and you get a cut of the oil deal. No. We're not a handout. All right, we got to protect the native Oregonians first, the native Indians first. Remember, native is not just Indian, black, Chinese, Russian, whatever color of skin color you are, because the Constitution does not discriminate with racism. Only stupid people do that, and attorneys do that, and judges do that for personal financial gain. And they got that going. I mean, that's for, what is that, cake company here in Portland, or no, Gresham. You know, the one that got nailed because they went to court and fought on my religious belief. I don't have to make a cake for the gay and lesbian people. Hell no. God ain't going to allow me to do it. I have a religious belief to do that. I try to get a hold of those people, try to give them some knowledge, but, you know, they don't give a shit. They do what they're told by some book. And if they had any intelligence, they would file their affidavit back and have it overturned. They have a constitutional right to deny service to whoever they want to. And because these people say, I'm a gay and lesbian, and you took it personal, that's a stupid fool that sat there and goes, oh, God gives me the right because of the Bible. Read your Constitution, folks. The Bible gives you no rights whatsoever. You have no rights by the Bible. It's cut and dry. The Constitution gives you rights. And if you go back even further, in 1846, the state of Oregon has a treaty with the British government before it became a corporation in 1859 with the federal British government. Remember, the federal government is the British government. Remember, all states have to go by federal administrative rules by the Constitution. You got people out there going, oh, we need to separate the states need to have their own structure. And you guys people, you got to shove these damn Democrats back to England because these assholes are trying to destroy you. They already got your mind screwed up. They already got you sitting there fighting with each other about religion and abortion. Who gives a shit if a woman has an abortion? That's her right. It's her body. Shut the hell up. If you don't like it, get the hell out of our country. The Constitution gives the woman the right to her body. If you don't like it, the Bible don't give no rights. The Bible gets minds screwed up, and that's why we got people being shot in the streets today, being hurt in the street because, oh, I'm a religion, and I have to go protect my fantasy of stupidity of belief. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the people. I'm trying to sit there and trying to get you to comprehend that once you stop fighting each other over semantics, because somebody says, the ground is yellow, not black or dirt. And then you want to go have a war because you think the ground is yellow and you can see it's brown, but, you know, dirt color, and you want to go have a war over it. That's what we're doing to each other today. You know, we're arguing over stupid stuff. Relationships are being destroyed over stupid stuff. Men and women ain't listening to each other like they used to. Stupid stuff. That is the facts that are going on today. It's a shame that men and women don't have respect for them. Some do, and those that still have respect for each other, making their relationships work, I bless that the Creator makes sure that you have a longevity with this structure. And those who want to sit there and do tit for tat and, oh, this is the problem that I went through in a relationship, the last one I was with. She was more worried about what everybody else thought about her than her own feelings and her own thoughts. She didn't care about those things. She cared about what everybody else thought. And when a woman or a man, including a man, start thinking about what somebody else thinks in their relationship, Let's say it, folks. Morons! It's what destroys families. You know, if people sat there and protected their bloodline, and I put an affidavit together to own your bloodline. It has worked. It has been working. We've got 50 people that are 50 children that are not registered in the state. They've actually got certification from the state attorney general and stuff in different states confirming that they don't need it. So I tell people, when you do this instrument, I'm not giving you legal advice or lawful advice. I'm just a guy that wrote something up, and if you like it, you're supposed to be a responsible man and woman adult. All right? And if you start selling it and making a damn profit off it, you better start sending us some money back. And I've had that happen here, it turned out recently, where people started using some of my stuff and making profits on it, and it pisses me off. I don't have a problem if you want to make a buck on it, but don't forget to send some back to the ones who created it and the ones that are doing this stuff. We don't have a problem sharing. That's the whole point about the education and knowledge. We're supposed to share it with each other. We're not supposed to sit there like schools and all this stuff, stab each other in the back as my school is better than your school, and my school is this, and I have more knowledge than you. See, that's the point that our school systems since 1990 has literally dumbed the society or people down. Most people today, even with what they think is a 4-year college education, only has a 9th grade education back from the 1960 standards. 4th grade as a 9th grade education. Now, back in 1960, you would have basically a double master's degree with the knowledge you should have today that we're supposed to have. The schools started dumbing the kids down because that way they could make more money, because if the kids were not smarter than the other, they could reduce the competition. It's like the United Kingdom has put in their schools that kids are not supposed to have friends in schools anymore, because if they have a breakup, the trauma and psychological damage, and all these dumb, stupid counselors going, we need to make money, so you're not supposed to have friends in schools anymore. And excuse me, the United States is working on that too. I've heard tales of some of the schools that have tried to implement that in the United States. Folks, you got to come to waking up, and when it comes to your school board meetings and stuff, I know I used to be on the school board in Lake East County, well, the local school committee. When I recalled the school board, they eliminated local school committees. That was Kate Brown's bill, Governor Kate Brown, acting governor. Because when I recalled the school board and I proved they embezzled $30 million with a guesstimate of $150, I did file for my 10% retainer. Of course, I didn't want to do that when I recalled the school board at 61 to 67% on all 5 board members. One resigned, respectfully, and that happened because people in the community actually came to me and said, Ed, this guy is not that smart. He got caught up in the middle. Please don't humiliate this guy. Give him a chance. So I went and had a conversation with the guy, and he resigned respectfully. That was because the people in the community had respect for him, so he didn't fall like a rock like the other ones who were embezzling money. I remember one of the school board members coming up, Ed, you don't know how bad it is being humiliated, what you did to us and what you did to me and all this shit. I can't even go around to business without them turning their back on me. Well, you shouldn't have stole the money. Right, Doug Hunt, county commissioner. Terry Thompson, county commissioner. And if you read my letter I put out dealing with the structure with the lottery funds, I can prove with Terry, what's his name? County Commissioner Terry Thompson. When they closed the fisheries down in 2004, and they took the subsistence fishery quotas away from we the people and gave it to the commercial industry. So they stole from you. And people are sitting there in the hallways and stuff at the Capitol, and the newspapers are congratulating people because they sat there and raped and robbed and stole from you. Because if you feed your family without what they call a license from their God, their kingdom of Christianity, Remember, your mayor, city council members, all these members, your judges and attorneys, they're all Christians. People go, Ed, quit being hard on Christians. Hey, I just tell the truth. They're all members of the church. They're all Christians. That's what they go by. Or Roman Catholic, and Roman Catholic people go, Ed, Roman Catholic are not Christians. Do your history. Read real history. Read how the structure formed. Christians were the ones that turned, if Jesus was real, were the ones who turned him over to the Romans. It's all in the history books. That's the point that, you know, it stuns me. I've done 45 years of research and reading this stuff. All right, I wouldn't be sitting or saying these things if I wasn't confident by the knowledge of what I produce by reading, the evidence that I've written and submitted into House and Public testimonies, newspapers, that some of the newspapers have actually run my articles in the papers. So that way, you know, when a newspaper runs an article in the paper, they're not going to run it because they know what liability is. So they're not going to run a liability issue for the paper at all. And that's the point that you've got to, folks, start coming to the reality of our country. Because if we don't start standing up and start changing this for ourselves and our children, we don't need to go to war with guns. It's like with the United Nations. Everybody wants to do this crap with the United Nations. The United Nations was formed by Nazi Germany and the British government. Remember, the British government is still under the Treaty of 1917, Trading with the Enemy Act. Technically, so is Germany when we buy products from either one of those countries. Because technically, it's still Trading with the Enemy Act. When we buy products from China, Trading with the Enemy Act. Not Japan, because we don't have that. We bombed the hell out of those people that technically was, I sort of think, was an accident. But, I mean, it's like producing evidence on what has transpired in these issues. And that's the point that people have got to do the research. So I'm getting ready. I'll have the other one put out on Kate Brown for treason. And if you believe that she's committed treason, I ask you to autograph it. If you are a legal citizen or national, and that's what I tell people, when people go, there's other people out there on the internet going, oh, nationals, they don't know what he's talking about nationals. Executive Order 2040 clearly states, and by administrative rules of the House and Senate, dealing with the 1980 Banking Act that was done by Woodrow Wilson, and then by FDR when he put Executive Order 2040 in March 9th, 1933, it clearly states any citizen and or national is an enemy to we the people of this country. Says it right in the structure. It's not a joke. It actually states it. So that's what I'm saying. People don't read it. They want to go. It's like the DREAM Act. Oh, these people passed the DREAM Act. Obama passed the DREAM Act. Well, what happens when you wake up from a dream? All reality. People are going, oh, these poor children are going to be shipped out. Well, not our problem. Their parents shouldn't have brought them to this country. Excuse me. Their parents made the problems. That's like the one guy from Muslim always holding up that Bible, says, my kid fought for this country. He died for this country. No, he didn't. You know he didn't. You're just using that as a ploy. That's what the Democratic Party wants you to do. He didn't die for this country. He died from the education that you brought him up, the guy. Most people know what I'm talking about. And it is bringing these points up. It's like the one thing is that you have to remember that if you're lawful, you are exempt from taxation. If you own land, U.S. Title 43, public lands are separation from private lands. Also, too, when you read this structure, you'll find out that immigrants, foreigners, and even foreign countries are not allowed to buy land in the United States. It's in the paperwork. It actually states this stuff. I've put it in my instruments. I have served the House and Senate over this for the last 20 years. Nobody has disagreed. There's even a couple times been a conversation on the public hearings dealing with Senate and House bills that were confirmed that it's a fact. That's what I'm bringing to you, is facts. The other point that I want to bring to your attention, that the corporation of Nestle Corporation, besides being caught stealing billions of gallons of water from California residents, and it's going around right now on Facebook and stuff, and there's no arrest. Well, shit, you can't arrest something unless the people file on them. Your police department, your judges, your district attorneys don't give a shit about you. They don't love you. They don't love your children. They don't want you in their life. They know that their job is, by their corporation, is to rape, rob, and pillage. That's what they do. If Californians actually wrote to David and went and filed that against Nestle and the president and the board. See, you can't sue a corporation. It's a dead identity. But if you actually filed it against the president and the board members for theft of life, because the board members and the president of Nestle says that man has no right to water, he shall die unless he pays the privilege for water. It's all over the internet. I put it up even recently. That was a statement he actually did, to my knowledge, almost 4 years ago, when he came out dealing with the state of Oregon, when he was trying to purchase the Columbia River from the people. He almost got a bill signed, administrative bill signed by the House and Senate in Cape Brown, or it wasn't Cape, actually that was 2.5 years ago when Cape Brown got in. He almost got a bill in giving the Columbia River over to Nestle Corporation. There's still arguments. You could type in Nestle with City Hall. What is that one? The Cascades. Cascade City even had it where they were fighting over it, and I've talked to the council member that was involved in that fight too. And apparently we went live stream off. Oh, we're back on. Okay. But see, this is one point that you got to realize, that there's other people in the communities or in our areas that know the truth, and they do fight for these things. But you have to stand with these men and women. If you don't, you're the enemy. You're the devil. You're the terrorist. And you got to wake up to this, because if we don't start protecting the ancestry of this country, that are ancestries that gave us the freedom, they gave us their blood for our rights today. Now they have installed and instilled the Constitution that we don't have to rape, rob, and murder like some of them did to get it done. Right now, we've got the circumstances called "the pen is mightier than a sword." You know, I want to read a deal with Thomas Paine. Most people know what Thomas Paine is in history, of 1737, 1909. He lived from 1937, or 1737. He passed away in 1809. Most interesting thought, provoking. Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun. Basically, the sun god is what it comes down to, in which they put called Christ in place of the sun. If you know about Satanism and all this stuff, and paid him the adoration originally paid by the sun. So in other words, what that's, to my comprehending, is if you don't pay for your sins, you don't go to heaven. But what the hell are you paying for the sins for? You can't buy your way into heaven. It doesn't work that way. That's a fantasy that we get led to believe. You know, the thing is on this earth, if you have a pure heart, that's up to you. When you go, that depends on how you leave. That doesn't mean what you do. You know, I mean, one thing I do support people not rape, robbing, and pillaging, and having compassion and those type of things. We need to help one another. You know, we should show compassion to one another. Most people don't. But I don't go by religion on that. I go by common sense, because we need to teach that to our children. If we don't teach that to our children, what future do they have? That's what disturbs me. How come people don't think about the children? How come people don't think honestly about their future? Most people today, it's all about me, 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 me. Well, down to it. Do people care about the future? Most people don't. And so that's what I'm saying. With the Oregon State House and Senate getting ready to open up, and each 48 states has the same thing, getting ready to open up, it's like you've got to realize and stand up for these things. Because if we don't change the circumstances, there is no future. And if you want to see what I filed on the some of the structure, especially what I filed on the for the 25 lottery funds coming back to us, make sure you email to Ed Johnston 200003 at yahoo.com 3 times. Put in the subject line, you want what I've served. I even the Cape Brown 1938 Foreign Registration Act. I even have the structure flag in the military structure, what the flag can and cannot do with the structure of the military flag compared to the peace flag. I do have the structure with the Queen of England with her personal stamp claiming the Constitution is the law of this land, not democracy. And that's the one thing people got to realize, democracy, we don't want democracy. Democracy is the devil. Democracy says you have no rights. You shall do what somebody tells you how to live. It's exactly, honestly, what it means. And it means that you don't have the right to do what you want. That means you have to ask the permission and privilege before you do what you want. And that's the one thing that people got to start standing up and comprehending this truth. This is not a fictitious fantasy on the circumstances of what's going on. I mean, it scares me in a sense what goes on with people raising kids today because they don't pay attention to what's going on with their own kids or their grandchildren. Put them in front of a TV set and they just put them there and they don't even care about them. That TV set is going to mind screw those kids up so hard. The one thing I was against having a TV in my house when I got argued about that, because next thing you know I'm being told that I don't have a TV, so that's being cruel to the children. And it's like, where the hell does that come from? We didn't have TV. The kids were learning. We were playing board games, card games. We actually had conversations at the dinner table. The minute TV came in, oh, everybody's at the TV channel. Nobody's even communicating. Nobody's doing anything but, going separate little ways. The TV is mind control, and the mind control is controlling them. It's like your iPhone or iPad. Everybody goes, oh, we got to buy this for the kids. Who says we got to buy it for the kids? That's a horrifying thing. That costs money or federal debt notes. Why are we mind controlling the kids? Not only that, the cell phones today and the iPads and all that with the smart meters are draining your brains. They're putting shock waves in it. They're killing your brains. They are. Do the research called smartmeter.org. They got towers that they put around the counties and the cities today. They can actually put a frequency out on that structure and give you a heart attack. Whoop, we went offline again. Let's see, we went offline. Oh, we're back online. Good. Okay. But I've seen how, these things that to put you out there and give you a heart attack. It's facts. It's like in the 1950s, they had the ray gun that could give you a heart attack. The military developed. In 1890, the United States and Germany already had effective cloning. Literally effective cloning. Everybody goes, oh, we got space Martians. We got the lizard people. How about we got cloning that's been going on? Dolly the sheep in 1999 was not the first cloning ever done. Successful cloning done on a human was done in 1900. And that was done by the United States. It actually beat Germany. Germany got their cloning on a human 1 year after that. It's all in the history structure. Scientist history and stuff. I mean, that's it. After my family was destroyed, I don't have a life, so that's all I do is read. You know? I mean, once I thought I had things in my life, but, you know, hey, it happens, so you deal with it. You get to learn the real truth. You know, at least in my life, love is on TV and the movies, so what the hell? Some people are blessed to have somebody that they love in their life and they can hold and hug, and that's the one thing. When you have those things, appreciate it. You know, a lot of people don't appreciate things today. They get selfish, they get greedy. They listen to stupid people around them because, like the famous saying is, misery loves company. And it doesn't mean that misery must be a congressional act. And don't forget Congress. What do they call that? Baboons. When a herd or gathering of baboons is called a Congress. So we see that Congress going with the Oregon State House and Senate, the way I look at it. The federal government, remember the federal government's the British government, not American. That's why they are part of Washington, D.C., of the Vatican of the Queen of England. Washington, D.C. is in 10 square miles. It does not succeed. They did expand it in, I think it was 2000, where they expanded it to 50 square miles. But that's in Washington, D.C. New York City is owned by the Vatican. The city itself is not part of the United States. So I'm saying, folks, you need to do the research. Please educate your kids on the truth. Turn off the TV. Turn off Disney. Watch and teach them the real structure. Give them real tests. Your school system does not educate your children today. Had a lot to do in 2000 when I recalled the Lincoln County School Board. True fact, I did recall all 5 board members. Well, 1 resigned, so 4 board members. It's a true fact. I've been involved in other recalls around the state of Oregon with a couple of judges and a few other people. A couple of them were successful. A couple of them, it turned out that the people involved were in it just for the money, their own personal satisfaction. They didn't give a shit about what was going on. So and I learned that one the hard way, getting involved in a couple of those issues. But hey, it was a learning experience. Of course, I wouldn't change it because without that, I wouldn't have the other knowledge that I have in different other things too. But see, the thing is about when you go through hard knocks, is not to take it personal. It's to learn and pass the knowledge down so you hope that somebody else doesn't go through the same hard knocks. Or the same structure even in a relationship. Oh, I mean, that's the one thing in a relationship. When you do trust a man or a woman in a relationship, or you can go to the other side with those other type that, you know, want to have a partner, which I don't care about if you are that structure. But stay the hell out of a marriage license. Even men and women, don't get a marriage license. You're entering into a state contract under the Vatican. So the court could dictate to you how you flush your toilet and how you can kiss your woman or your man or your partner. Write a contract. Article 1, Section 10. The court system has to go by a contract. If they don't go by a contract in a relationship, that means every contract that they have with attorneys and lawyers and all the other bullshit, we know it's bullshit, they can't honor that. That means the whole court system has to collapse. I don't want to see the court system collapsing, to tell you the truth, because we have something in place. We need to quit arguing with all these idiots that are going out with Social Security and all these things that are attacking it and getting our system working correctly. We have a system that's been in place for us, and we need to learn how to utilize the system, make it work for we the people, and for those who are committing crimes through it, to make sure that they're either in prison, and I don't have a problem with the other latter part of it either. You know, that's the one thing I don't have a problem with. These people either need to be one way or the other dealt with. Prison or the other, you know. Because we do have some people that have done horrendous things. That's why, you know, I don't vote, so I'm not taking sides. But Donald Trump came out with a hell of a bill that even Rad Paul came out and said, dealing with that, his father, I'm trying to remember his father's name, I'll come to that here in a minute, They're attacking the bill, going, this could be used in any way, but they're scared because elected and public officials, even the Oregon State House and Senate members today, have been personally involved endorsing child human trafficking, rape, robbing, and pillaging. California, Oregon state law, and California law, Washington law, I've read most of the state administrative rules. You don't need a driver's license as long as you're lawful in this country. That's the point. People need to read the immigration laws, too. I was talking to that the last few days with other people on immigration. Immigration laws actually states that we're supposed to be English only. If they cannot read English, they cannot be in this country. 8 U.S.C. 1234, Section A. I mean, these things are written up, and it's time that we start acting that our forefathers gave us these things through the Constitution to protect our bloodline. That means lawful bloodline and that means the legal eventually coming lawful. But that means legal and lawful have to protect each other. Immigration that has no legal rights being here need to be shipped out. There's no immunity. Judges and attorneys have no immunity. Courts have no immunity. When I do file the structure I got coming out dealing with Cape Brown, you'll see what I'm doing with that, because I'm putting in it like I did with the other one with the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act with Cape Brown. I'm putting the structure in for the Secretary of State in it, and the court reporter. If the clerk does not file it, it's already mandatorily in it. So when it's autographed, turned in, they don't do their job. You don't have to file on them again. You just file. They didn't file. It's already in this instrument. Yes, it's an extra 3 pages in it, but I wanted to make sure it was done in the instrument, because if they didn't do their job, you already put it in the paperwork, they're mandatory going to jail. We don't want to waste any more time. We wasted years on this stuff, and everybody goes, we're not supposed to be attorneys, lawyers, and try to keep the monster being going. You know, we don't need to keep that machine going. We need to start putting these administrative rules in what the laws are, so that way the machine cannot just keep eating. The machine has to start stopping. That's why when you do and pass a federal debt note, a federal dollar, when a debt is created, every time that debt note, that's where the debt goes up and down with that. John Kitzhoffer last May came out with a structure which shocked me in the Portland business structure. Stated, how come Kate Brown not writing things off on a straw man account? That's actually in the information I'm putting out with the past letter and the new letter. I'm putting that out. He brought it out. I remember talking to him about that back in 1994. So I'm glad to see you finally brought it up. Yes, they can write this off the straw man account. The straw man account exists. Don't let these men and women lie to you. But see, the thing is, the straw man account is not so we can go out and buy a house or a Mercedes-Benz. The straw man account was set up so that way our electricity, water, food bill, or basic transportation, our basic needs were met, because when they, March 9th, 1933, when they took away real money, they had to put something in place that covered the lawful Americans, not the legal ones that are coming in. That's why executive order says citizens and nationals are enemies. And if you go back to the 14th Amendment, that there's 2 versions. One was passed, one wasn't. Depends on which way you want. I have both of them. Which I think we got them up on the site. If not, we'll be getting them back on the. We'll get them up on the site. But I have both of them. One was passed, and a guy sent me stuff that says it questions if it was actually passed too. But I'd much rather say the 14th Amendment was passed dealing with a court case, because if you're a citizen or national, that means you are an enemy to the country. People say, well, you go back to the 1700s, they were talking about citizens with the structure of their Constitution. Well, if you go back to England, and if you go back to Roman Catholic structure, Roman Catholic Church in the Roman days, and you go back, I'm trying to think of the other one, the Irish, I can't remember what the other point is on the religious point with the Irish, but citizens were servants to the crown, or the king. Servants don't have rights. And I have that by administrative rules. I have that by the federal and state court cases. I put that in the instrument as well to clarify that. I mean, I go by the statute, codes, and administrative rules that these public servants, judges, attorneys, and lawyers have to go by. So that's why I say they wrote it. We lawful Americans quote it. So they have to go by their administrative rules, and if they don't, that's where we need to start filing on these men and women. Criminal charges. So I try to get try to get through the Bundys. Apparently they're going to try to recharge the Bundys. How come these fools are not writing the criminal charges on what they've gone through? You can pray all you want, but that ain't going to do a damn bit of good when they put the warrants out and pick you up again. When you file the criminal charges on them, and people already know the living hell that you went through, people get it. Oh, by the way, I did serve the Bundys too, the structure that you don't need to pay for the courts and all that. Courts are voluntary so long as that you are, what is that? Lawful American. If you are a person, an inanimate object, that's what person means. You have to pay the court fees. If you're a citizen, you have to pay court fees. The national, you have to pay court fees. But if you're a bloodline American and you can prove the structure, you're one of it says one of we the people. Court fees are not, we're not supposed to pay them. And I have that, and I put it out on the Facebook, and it's on the website, and I push that out to everybody. A lot of people I talk to, I email that to. So when you go in and when you file your court structure, you put in that. And if you're claiming to be, and I've talked to people that they go into court and they want to be a person, or they want to be a Mister, and when people call me Mister, I tell them I'm not a title of nobility. Don't give me a title of nobility, because I'm not responsible for nobility. I'm not going to be knighted by the Queen, because I don't believe in that. To me, that is fairy tale, Disneyland stuff that's not real. The Queen is over in another island. You know, look at what she's already done to her people. She brought the Muslims in and it's destroying her country. We've done that because of the religious people in this country going, oh, we have to be the one world savior, peace on earth. I'm sorry to say, folks, this New Year, let's stop doing peace on earth. Let's start doing peace for the 48 states and protect our children. Protect your children first. You wonder why your children are having the problems they are having. It's because most people who are parents are not being responsible. They're not educating their children. They turn their kids over to the state, and then they go to church and they want to teach them fantasy instead of bringing them up on real education. Like I say, plant food, collect rainwater. The reason why the state doesn't want you to collect rainwater because of the poison that they put in the sky with the airplanes. Chemtrails and all that, because you can hold them liable for that. And if you go back in the structure of the filings with the cities and counties, any rainwater that falls on your property is yours, technically. Comes from the heavens, but they're trying to claim it as theirs, so you have to file for your rights. You know, I got a lot of people out there that keep telling me, hey, why do we have to file? Why do we have to do this? We're supposed to know this. I don't know if you're legal in my country. I don't know if you're lawful in my country. I want to see it. I learned a long time ago, never trust anybody and take the word for nothing. You know, I mean, until you've been in a relationship a long time, you sure don't take the other partner's word for it until they prove them have a word of honor. We've all been down that walk of life. So these are things to look at, things to think about. So, and when it comes up to the Oregon State public hearings that are coming up this year, I love to be there. I like to tear into some of these bills. I like to turn in some of the affidavits I got to make sure that they're turned into the House and Senate for evidence against their corruption. And more people start filing these bills and emailing them to their House and Senate members, even around the country, around the 48 states, you'll start seeing changes. I mean, Trump is doing some interesting bills out there. Remember, he's doing administrative rules. That at least he's the only president that I have ever heard that actually said out in public he was the president of a corporation. And it's like what Dave and I discussed once, so that means, and I discussed it with another gentleman earlier, and it's like, so does that mean anybody's the president of their own business, their own corporation, their own structure, has to go by the same structure of the Constitution? Does make you wonder. It's an interesting question we've been bouncing around. Because if a president of the corporation has to go through that, and that's called the President of the United States Incorporated, doesn't the president for every corporation in the United States have to do the same thing? I don't know. It's something that, can be batted around. That's up for the people to make that decision. Not an attorney, not lawyers. But it's a collective decision for the people to come up with. Who knows? It could be a ballot measure that people could do. I don't do ballots. I don't vote. I am thinking about throwing my name out in governor's race in New Jersey, see if anybody will sign me up. Having fun with that. Rights to travel, rights to hunt and fish. I'm almost done writing that one up. I thought that would be a humorous thing to throw out in the media here at the end of January. Before all the March and the April elections coming up, and that structure to get out. Thought that would be humorous. So, people got to start standing up in this country. Knowing the structure, too, that we have signed, too, on the rights of trespass. You're elected in public service, don't trespass on your property. You have to file the affidavits. You have to put those signs up on your property. You have to make sure it's filed in the House and Senate. You have to make sure it's filed in the Secretary of State. You have to make sure it's filed with the county clerk. If you don't file it, it doesn't get done. So, and the other point I'll throw you is apparently going with the banks are reporting to freeze all accounts with Bitcoins. So apparently Bitcoins might be going down. So be careful with that with Bitcoins. Don't know the truth. We don't know the circumstances, to tell you the truth. But it's one of those things. Be careful. So all I can suggest is be careful on certain things that you're doing. Because if you don't be careful and trust yourself, who else are you going to trust? It's hard to trust somebody else unless you actually have that relationship where you actually can really trust them. A lot of people don't have that. So anyhow, also too, don't forget, a week from Saturday, I'll be putting it up in the subject line here pretty soon with the new structure of the talk show. Going to be doing Saturday and Sunday instead of Sunday and Monday. I think that's the best thing we shall be doing, seeing that all these other people decided to want to start chasing us. So we go to Saturday, and I know some people like to do their Saturdays and have TV programs or different other stuff they like to do on Saturday, but I'm sorry to do that because I agree there should be something, but it's really disturbing when people want to go out and do this stuff and come up with all this other stuff for their structure coming after us for Monday night. It sort of stunned me because I just had two other people today change their talk show to Monday. So it does make you wonder, apparently some of the stuff that's going on that I bring up and others that are with me that bring up different things, people are listening. People are paying attention. So it is one of those things that it's up to us to educate the kids. If we don't educate the kids, there is no future for them. That's where people have got to start being realistic with themselves, honest with themselves. Don't forget to read the Treaty of 1871 with the British government, the Vatican, and the United States. Remember, the point is with the Vatican, also too, with the Treaty of 1213 and the Magna Carta of 1215. Those are England treaties. Those are not American treaties. So it is knowing the separation of legal and lawful. Legal is British structure, and lawful is the Constitution. And that's the one thing that we need to know, the difference of lawful and legal, especially for the children need to be taught that structure. So that way when they do get pulled over by a public servant or harassed by a public servant at school grounds, they don't be rude to them, disrespectful. They be respectful and tell them what the law is. They need to know the law so that way they can preach the law to these men and women with politeness. And when these men and women 90% of the time get put in place because of politeness, they do get put in place. They do back away. They do walk away. When people decide to be solely rude and disrespectful, that's what goes on with people that happen. It's the same thing that would happen with you. If somebody's sitting there being disrespectful and rude to you and doing all that, it's the same thing. I mean, you know, you got to respect. The one point is that you want respect, you need to respect them. And the other point is that I put this out, you know, dealing with the structure is silence. I got to go back and find that one. This is the one thing that people need to realize, that when you do put your paperwork out to these elected and public people, oh, there it is. I thought I just saw it. Yep. Okay, silence can only be equated with fraud, where there is a legal or moral duty to speak, or when an inquiry left unanswered would be intentionally misleading. So that's like when our public servants do the stuff that they do to us, and you serve this, our revenue system is based on good faith, technically, of a voluntary taxpayer, and voluntary taxpayers should be able to export. This is all the federal court case too, is your taxes are voluntary, including property taxes. I'll have something written on that here to serve. Be able to expect the same from government. Remember, government is we the people. A lot of people use government as the corporation. Corporation technically is elected and public employees. And so when we do talk, we need to talk about our elected and public servants, not the government, because we the people technically are the government. And the enforcement and collection of activities. If that is a case where we hope our message is clear, their sort of deception will not be tolerated, and this is a routine. It shall be corrected immediately. So if they, when you serve them an instrument and they plead silence, make sure you incorporate that in. We do have that up, I believe, up on the wall or on the Facebook site. But quote this stuff in your instruments. See, it's up to you to put the stuff in, and in that way, if they don't respond, you already have the instrument where it's already stated in it, so that way you don't have to go back and forth. That's why when I write an instrument, sometimes they're, 20 to, I think the longest one I did was 137 pages. And that's the point when I write an instrument, I make sure the kitchen sink, the book is in it. People say, well, they're not going to read it. It's too long. Well, it's not my problem if they don't read it. Not my issue if they don't read it and pay attention. My issue is that when I file it back, or if it has to go to the Supreme Court or to another court, when I file that at that point, it's already in it. They cannot dispute it. There is no question. There's no argument. It's already done in it. So you end the argument right then. You stop the conflict of interest right then. And then the other major point that I'll bring up to you, anytime you go to court, you always want to put in writing, and this is one thing I do tell people. People go, well, I said this to the judge. Hearsay witness is inadmissible in court. The minute you talk in court, you've lost. You lost. Put it in writing, and then when a judge tries to talk to you, you go to the page of the instrument. On page so-and-so, line so-and-so. You quote it that way. You make sure he reads that into record. you stop the conflict of interest. See, there's so many simple solutions we have to have our public servants, that we can control our public servants by their own instruments, by their own court system. State Attorney General, District Attorney, and all they're hearsay witnesses, inadmissible in court, technically. But you need to spring that up in court, and anytime a judge speaks, always say, objection, objection. And when a judge tells you, oh, that's, what do they call that, obstruction of justice, or, trying to remember the other word here, contempt of court. Always bring that to the judge, going, you're in contempt of court, because you can tell a judge he's in contempt of court and make sure it's on record. You do that, you already brought the argument to win the case by bringing those up. That's the point, is that you are there to win. You are there to make sure that your word is heard, that you are there to win, not to have a conversation. That's the main thing. You are there to not have a conversation. You are there to present your evidence in writing and to leave that court in a maze of awe. And you do that, and you start doing that, you'll find out a lot of times the judges will just, I've got your case, I'll take that under advisement, you have a good day. When 99% of the time they tell you they're taking that under advisement, you'll never hear from them. Don't respond to the court then. You can always check, see if they're trying to put a warrant out for you, but don't do that yourself, have somebody else do it. But 99% of the time they ain't going to do that because that's under advisement of the court. They won't do it. So these are things to look at how the system of the court works. Remember, this is a de facto court system. It's like I got a cartoon I'll be putting up on the website too for people. It's like the cartoon says that the judge is telling the guy that when he's issuing the statement to him, is don't forget, me and your pastors are one and the same. We are the act of Jesus. And that's the way your judges do feel, that they are the messenger of God. Same thing as a pastor or a reverend, whatever you want to call it. So, but anyhow, it's been almost an hour and a half. I'm going to open up the floor. I think we can open up freely, and and then we'll see how that goes. And then I'm looking at to thank everybody. And
all participants are unmuted.
So, anybody would like to speak up? The floor is open.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I read somewhere that what do you call it? If they try to, let's say you didn't sign a contract with somebody, but they force you into it. From what I understood, the under UCC code, that you're supposed to be divulged all information of the contract, so that you have full knowledge of what's going on.
Right.
And if you do not, doesn't it make it void and or null and void?
Right, it does. And you have 72 hours to file on that too to make it null and void. And I do have administrative and court filings too that I'll have to get up on the site. But if you are threatened, basically you're told if you don't sign this, you're going to jail. I do have precedent court cases. If they do that, that's a felony for the judge to do that. So we'll get those out to everybody too. But yes, you have 72 hours to rescind your contract. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know if there's somebody else who would like to have another comment on that. Maybe they got another point of view. The floor is open. So, but yeah, to my knowledge, it's 72 hours to rescind any contract. And if you're doing that and they're forcing you into a contract, rescind a contract because that's threatening your life and your security. So, anybody else would like to bring anything up?
Yeah, Ed?
Yeah.
When you get a traffic citation, that officer is there trying to give you that presentment for whatever. That's a contract right there on the spot. You don't have to sign it. And you do not have to sign it in Oregon. He just pulls speed limit. I want to see your driver's license, your insurance. And so he turns around and says, here's your, the ticket. That's the presentment. And he wants you to pay it within right away or whatever, so many days. Or he sets a court date, 14, 15, 16, 18 days later for you to go to court. So that's a contract. You didn't sign. Your signature is not on it anywhere.
That's right. Not only that, he gave you a presentment that you could actually take to the Secretary of State and ask him for the funding from it, because that's basically a check he gave you that you could take to the Treasury to get paid.
Well, do you know anyone that's ever done it successfully?
I know one guy who has actually done it successfully.
You saw it for sure.
Yeah, no, I did see that for sure, and that's what shocked me.
If I knew that could be done successfully, I want to get me a bunch of speeding tickets and go in and make a couple million.
Well, yeah, we can all do that, but we don't need to be a target for Kate Brown and their little cronies. You know, I mean, it's bad enough I've been a big enough target on the other stuff I've done in the state going back for years.
Hey,
you know exactly that one. Same with you.
Anyway, there's all kinds of presentments out here, and they're considered a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And your signature's not on them, and so you have to deal with them. That's all I had to say. That most people don't realize that a presentment is a contract. It's like going in and ordering steak and eggs for breakfast, and the waitress comes along and gives you the presentment. That'll be your $15 or whatever, and there's your presentment. That is a contract.
Yep.
And there's no signature on it.
Contract to pay, but the other point you could always tell a cop is, I'm not here to contract with you.
Well, that doesn't, he's not going to listen to that. He's going to say, take it up with the court.
Well, yeah, but you at least you've got it on recorded record, because they're supposed to have the recording on them.
Anyway, I just throw that out there for everybody to understand.
Yeah, no,
okay?
That's a good one. That is a valid one.
Okay. I'll let you go. Let somebody else talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that one, because that is the point. That is a very valid point. And a lot of states do that. They do that. And then I think Texas, Minnesota, and Montana now are doing that. If you get pulled over, instead of getting a ticket to go to court, they want your credit card now, and they swipe it, and they just deduct right from your bank account now. And that is federal fraud right there on the surface. But they're getting away with it, because the reason why they're getting away with it, because people are not standing up against it. That's the problem with the circumstances of people. They just do what they're told. They don't want to stand up. They're scared. That's the saddest part. People are too scared to stand up.
Well, one of the things that has worked, at least for me and maybe a few others, are you trying to force me into a contract, an agreement against my will, without my consent? It's non-acceptance. And that's the key word. Against your will without your consent, and you don't accept, non-acceptance.
No, and that's a good point to bring that up for people to hear that.
Well, you were mentioning they need to learn. They need to know what to say, because they can always bring it up later if they need to. But that's the question. Are you, whatever, Mr. Officer, Captain, whatever the name tag is, are you trying to force me into a contract, an agreement against my will, without my consent? It's not acceptance, not agreement, and that's all under the UCC. Anyway, I'll let you go on, or I'll let somebody else talk. That's it. Bye.
Oh, no problem. Well, the other point too is that you got to remember he's trying to force you in a contract by gunpoint too. He's got a sidearm on him. I'm not going to call it an arm for him, but it's a sidearm. So he's trying to force you in a contract by gunpoint.
Threat of arrest.
And what was that?
And under the threat of arrest.
Oh, yeah, no, kidnapped and imprisonment and held for ransom.
Yep.
And that's where people got to realize that when you're kidnapped and held for ransom and strip search is rape. That is considered federally as rape. Strip search is. So it's not a forgiveness. There's no forgiveness in the structure that these people do.
Hey Ed, quick question then. If strip searching is considered rape, then what about the TSA?
That's right. But see, people won't file it. They won't do it. I've even given that information to people that travel, that I personally know travel, and they just go, I just do what they tell me to do. I don't want the hassle. So they just comply. They don't want to stand up for the rights. And that's sad because when people do that, everybody's suffering for that, for those people. And you are right. It is the same thing with TSA. It is rape.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, backing up to when a cop asks you for your driver's license, your proof of insurance, isn't that racketeering once he asks for proof of insurance?
Well, not only that, that falls under 42 U.S.C. Section 8, Section D, identity theft.
Also under the Fourth Amendment.
Thank you. Yep. I don't know, also too, the Fifth Amendment too.
Yep.
So, but that's what I'm saying is, not, and that's the one thing is that I will be having eventually. I want to get some stickers made so we could put those on the website to sell, so people can put it in their back window of their car, so it's already there, or in the side windows when they walk up, they see it, so it's already it's a public notice to them right there, and that is considered a legal notice to them when it's in the window. Of course, they don't want you to know that, but it is considered a legal notice.
Good idea.
Well, have you ever, you've been on my website, haven't you? Or our website, I should say. You've been on our site, haven't you?
Not really.
Okay, well, we got signs up there, too, that I have on my front yard that says to all elected and public servants, basically, if you trespass on my land, I'm going to shoot you. And so I have it done so it's done in a fashion that the way anybody can come on my land is only if there's a life and death emergency. And that's basically if I call it, and that's an ambulance or fire department. Public and police department or anything like that is not welcomed. And so I do actually have those posted all around my house, on my land. And that is on new.org trackers, and it's about the middle of the page. So, I think that's a good one that we have out there for people, too. It brings attention to that, to them. And there's a lot of other people got their structure. We got several of them up there. And it's getting it out so that way when you put these things out there, I mean, I even have a structure where I got my own custom plates that I have up there, and you can type in, I think, Ed Johnston plates, and it should come up on the internet. And I have the structure with Oregon State Administrative Rules on the plates itself, stating you don't need a driver's license, insurance, and I actually have the ORS code on the plate itself from the Department of Transportation, from Oregon Department of Transportation on it, beside the federal laws on it, and title was that 241 and 242 on it. So I do have that. I don't know if I have the plates up on the Facebooks, on the website yet or not. I'll double check that a little later. But we do have that structure available. It is up there, you know. I mean, I got to get more plates. I have stickers that I made up, too, that I have actual stickers that I put on boats and cars and all my structure, and it actually says the right to travel on it. It has Oregon State right to travel on it, including where you don't have to register your boat, too. It has the actual administrative rules where you don't need to register your boat on it, because they can't charge you to go in the waterways. And that's the one thing that people, like I said, once we start standing up and doing this, but see, like I said, they're raking in $8 trillion a year, and if they're paying out $1 trillion and you got $7 trillion coming in, they're raking up because they know people are stupid. And they actually spent billions of dollars to test the education of people to see how stupid people are. They do spend the studies. That's like everybody going ADHD, you know, attention deficit disorder. There's another bullshit one. Everybody has attention deficit disorder. Everybody does. But then if we can make a crime out of it and make funding out of it, hey, we can make funding. And then when they pass these funding bills up at the Oregon State House and Senate, this is the other thing. When they do pass these bills and they get the funding for it, for their programs, all right, then it goes to the attorneys, it goes to the doctors, it goes to the structure in their own pocket. And that's the point, that they do this for their own pocket. And they know it. Go ahead.
Interstate 60.
Yeah, that's a hell of a movie. Yeah, I do recommend people definitely watching that movie. That will definitely explain your court system beyond a shadow of a doubt. Literally explains your court system without a shadow of a doubt. But that's up to you to know how to defend your child, your circumstances, your responsibility. And that's the one thing that people do not get, that point of responsibility. They just don't get it. You know, and everybody goes, I'm a responsible parent. Well, what does a responsible parent mean to that parent? And that's the point that I bring to people up. What does responsibility mean to you in that point of being a parent? So, I mean, that's the one point to look at these things. So, these are things to look at. So, anybody else got anything else they would like to bring in? Or thoughts we should bring up next week? Well, I guess not, so... I don't know, it's almost 7 o'clock. I guess we could probably wrap tonight up. And so then that way we'll get up and I'll be putting up some stuff for next week. I will have next week the treason charges for Cape Brown ready to go. I will have them ready. I was trying to get them ready for the last couple of weeks. And sometimes it takes a little time to put these things together when you want to make sure you've got it correctly, because when you do something like this, I am putting my ass on the line literally. So that's the one thing. It's like when I do this, that I want to make sure that I don't want to get a chunk out of my rear end on it, because that could hurt. So these things like that need to be done up where it needs to be done, so that way anybody else who autographs the because I'm putting it as alleged treason on her, and do you believe that, or do you think she has committed treason against we the people of Oregon? So I'm going to be putting it in such a fashion where we're not slandering it at the point, but we're bringing it up because once this is served, it's going to the executive branch as well as the ethics committee. So we're bringing this up, and we'll be going to the, what is the other point too? The one that they love me so much is the risk management. because we got to serve them all of this stuff, and then if that's, people start doing that, and I know she has committed treason, that's what I believe, I do see it. I can prove that because she's a bar member. I can prove it because she's from Spain, she's not an American. And by Oregon State Constitution and by the federal Constitution, you have to be born in this country. And not only that, by administrative rules and federal court decisions, clearly state every state must. It doesn't say, or one says must and the other one says shall go by the federal Constitution, not the 1871, but the original ratified 1778. And it says must and shall. So the states cannot sit there and separate. What they're trying to do is separate these states by democratic structure so they can make new countries and territories by the Democrats, which we do not want. We do not want that at all. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and call it an evening. If anybody's got anything else to say, and I'll leave the floor open for that first before we end the show. But I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. May the Great Spirit and Mother Earth bless you, and may the Great Spirit and then the Creator look over you. Travel safely, and make sure that you collect rainwater and plant food.
And a Happy New Year to everybody.
That's true. Happy New Year to start off with a good New Year. That's a good point. I forget little things like that sometimes.
Anybody else wants to say anything? So thank you for joining us with our most newest of the year show. Basically, with like the TSA agent thing and the cops, the strip search thing, by their own rules and regulations, if you do not respond, silence is consent. So when you stay quiet whenever they rape you like that, you're consenting to be raped again, and you're consenting to let your children, your wife, your husband, your mom, your dad, everybody to be raped by them because you didn't say anything against it. That should be it. Thank you again for listening, and good night.